Welcome to Abundance. You guessed it, a podcast dedicated to all things surrounding dance. I am Kristen.
And I am Hannah, and we are two best friends who are brought together by this art form.
Please join us in 5, 6, 7, 8.
Here's a word from our sponsor. All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we have the amazing Michelle Cave with us, and I'm so excited to have her on this podcast. I've really grown to love her as a person and as a teacher, taking a lot of classes at Steps with her on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, which has been such a nice way to start my day. Michelle has so many talents and things to offer, so I can't wait for her to tell us more about what she's done. We're super excited to have you here, Michelle, so thank you so much.
I'm so excited to be here to talk about ballet with you tonight. I'm really honored that you asked me to join your podcast, so thank you for having me.
Of course. To get us going, can you start by telling our audience where you started your dance training?
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you asked this now. I trained at Sacramento Ballet, and my director, Barbara Crockett, she just passed away last month, 1 month shy of her 102nd birthday. So it gave me an opportunity to reflect on how tremendous she was historically and really the opportunity that she created for all of us who were there. I didn't appreciate it at the time, of course, because I was young and just, complaining about why didn't I get this part or why didn't I get that part. But yeah, in retrospect, she had trained or danced for the San Francisco Opera Ballet, which was actually the first professional company in the US. It was,
wow.
Yeah, I know, right? It started in the 30s. It went on to become the San Francisco Ballet, but there's the San Francisco Opera Ballet. And she and her husband danced there in the 1930s, and then they wanted to start their own training program and civic company, and that became the Sacramento Ballet. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, that sounds like a tremendous life that to live to almost 102. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, you got a little taste of that part of her history and her legacy.
Yeah, and I didn't realize how special it was at the time, but she brought the professionalism of her career to us. We always performed with a live orchestra. We had the benefit of kind of doing, being in a company when we were teenagers and really understanding what that meant at a professional level. And she brought teachers, internationally acclaimed teachers in to work with us and choreographers. So it was really a special way to train. So I was grateful for that. And then I would, because of her connections to San Francisco, but also just because of our training, I would do my summers on scholarship at the San Francisco Ballet School. So I had that as well.
So great. And now you also studied at the Royal Ballet Upper School in London. Is that correct?
So I did that. I left high school a year early, and we had a teacher in Sacramento who was from the Royal Ballet School and had trained there. And she told another student about the opportunity the year before me, and then I went ahead and followed her trajectory and trained there for a year, which was, an amazing experience. A lot to share about that if you're curious.
Yeah. How did that experience vary from your training in America, as it's not only a different school, but it's also in another country, and I imagine there were probably quite a few differences.
Yeah, first of all, I was kind of viewing it as, when I look back on it, it was like a 9-month summer intensive. I mean, it was extremely intensive. We were, start 8:30, 9 in the morning and go all day, of course, and have our technique class, and then learning the repertoire of the Royal Ballet, which was really special and unique. I remember looking back, we learned some Frederick Ashton ballets, and we learned, all kinds of variations, and yeah, it was very intense. I was surprised because I was expecting a training along the lines of the Royal Academy of Dance, the RAD training.
Right.
But at that point, they were adding teachers from different schools. So my primary ballet teacher was from Czechoslovakia. So our training was very Russian. very strengthening. And yeah, I think, at that point in my life, I was ready to go somewhere and have a new sort of freeing experience. And it was very rigid and very competitive. And so in that respect, it taught me a lot about myself. I think at that point, to present the opportunity to train really intensely and look at a life of being in a ballet company like that versus having the freedom to sort of explore what else dance could be for me.
Do you attribute the kind of intensity and competitive nature more to just like the prestige of the Royal Ballet, as that is a big schooling company, or do you think that any of that was kind of a cultural difference between the States versus abroad?
Yeah, I don't think it was cultural so much as I think just the level of what it was. And, for the dancers there at the time, of which I was one, you're trying to get in that company. I mean, and there were 40 of us or something like that. And, what I realized kind of 2/3 of the way through that experience is I wasn't going to be one of the 3 that was going to stay there. Maybe I probably never was going to be. So, but the benefits of having that intense level of training stay with me for my whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's so intriguing. I don't know, I just didn't expect to hear all that. Like, it's just kind of astonishing, but it makes a lot of sense. And I also think, you're so detailed oriented and like strong when you present combinations and when you're speaking and teaching. And so I can definitely see how your time there translated to your present and probably the dancing that you spent in the United States as well.
In retrospect, absolutely. I remember some, humiliating, horrible moments when, we're rehearsing all of us together and they come and move my hand. It was, the precision, and particularly with the Ashton and the details, was really hard, but I'm glad that I had that work,
Definitely.
Right. It pays off for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, going forward, Michelle, you received your BA, your MA, and your MBA from Stanford University. How did your college experience influence your dance career?
Yeah, so I did those, I studied there at kind of 2 separate times, and there were like 10 years in between. So it kind of bookended. And I think just kind of in keeping with the earlier discussion about the Royal Ballet, I realized my year there that I wasn't going to go on and have a professional career right away. Like, I just didn't want it anymore. I was like, what I was feeling there was that, my body, my technique, really just kind of the shape of my body wasn't what they wanted. And it didn't matter how hard I worked every day. I wasn't going to change that. So leaving there and deciding that I was going to go to college and just leave dance behind 100%, was really freeing. So going to college at that point allowed me to fall in love with dance all over again. And I didn't realize at the time, I was done. I was like, that this is not for me. Can't do it. Not going to do it. I'm going to college. I'm going to do something totally different. And then, 2 weeks into college, I was like looking, where can I take ballet? I mean, I missed it so much. But it was great because I was able to approach ballet in a way that I fell in love with it. I could do it as I wanted. And dancing with other smaller companies in the Bay Area while I was in college just gave me a way to find myself separate from who I was as a student. And it allowed me to feel really appreciated, I think. And, because I was being asked to perform with regional companies or to guest with this or to teach here, to do that. And it was important for me, I think, as a person at that point, because I rebuilt my confidence. I left the Royal Ballet School with so much knowledge, but not a lot of confidence. So being able to dance while being in college, because I didn't study dance at college. There was no dance at Stanford at that point. So ballet, well, I mean, there probably was some modern dance and a little bit of dance, but it really wasn't, I wasn't there to dance, to get a dance degree. So but finding dancing while I was there outside of it, I was really built up again, an idea of why I love dance and what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so awesome to hear. And it sounds like you have created so much for yourself, both academically when you were at Stanford, but also having the opportunity to dance with those companies and then going on to fall in love with dance all over again. It makes you realize, like, okay, in the future, I definitely want to continue to do something with that. So that's just so awesome to hear. And I'm glad you had such a positive experience while you were in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I was able to do it on my terms and then to go and on. But, you know, that said, then when I decided, oh, I really do want to dance professionally, I'm going to try this. I really do want to do this. I know I left it behind at 16 or 17 and now I want to do it again. You know, there still are ageism. There still is ageism in ballet now, but back then it presented its own challenge, you know, to go back and audition again at 20 something, but it kind of worked out. So it was okay.
Yeah. And ballet really can be so all consuming that I think for many dancers, sometimes we do need that kind of step away, a little bit of reflection, and then kind of coming back to our art form. And I think for many people that happened during the pandemic of just, you know, being pulled away from the everyday of what we do as dancers and having some reflection. And for some people, you know, trying other interests and exploring other things, or, you know, just falling in love with dance when it's not so heavily present in our lives like it is.
Absolutely. And just to get somebody else's perspective on what you're doing, or to, you know, do it in another place, just, you know, to step out and just kind of take a fresh look and see what you find.
Yeah. And so in terms of falling in love with dance all over again and having a professional career, what did you love most about that all?
I know I was thinking about this, and I at first I was thinking, oh, I loved, you know, having been in the Sacramento Ballet Company and then doing all of what I did at the Royal Ballet School. And eventually I loved, you know, to guest and go do a lead role somewhere. And that that felt so wonderful and supported and, you know, great. And but then I was like, no, but I also really just loved, you know, being in the core in a professional company and, you know, the camaraderie of that. And was thinking about this absurd situation when, you know, I was in this Russian company that we were in Indianapolis and we toured Nutcracker and all of us had to do everything. So we were, you know, the women had to do Parent and then Mouse and then Snow. And like, it was, but how bonding that was and how much fun that was to be dancing, you know, in the core, like with doing everything all the time. I loved that too. So it was really hard for me to pick one thing. I don't think I can. I really, really, really love being on stage, and I really love working with dancers, all dancers. I mean, of course, there's some who can annoy you, and they're, you know, there are hard things, but yeah, in all contexts, maybe it's the distance that's making me, you know, look at it only through rose-colored glasses, but every opportunity to be on stage, I really loved.
Oh, that's so great to hear. I know it is so hard to pick favorites. I have trouble doing so myself, but I'm glad that you had such a positive experience.
Yeah. Overall. And then, you know, at one point I was in Indianapolis. I was old enough to say, you know, I don't want to be here anymore just because I want to be back in New York. You know, like that's where, and then to be able to come back at New York and be older and be able to work with small companies and emerging choreographers and having them set work on me, that was a great experience. You know, couldn't make a living off of that, but it was, but artistically, that was probably my favorite thing to do, to kind of create new ballets or new roles, or just have choreographers work with me in an experimental situation. And yeah.
Great. And did you start teaching while you were still performing?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was 18 when I first, you know, at Stanford, I was teaching at, you know, they asked me to, can you sub? And then, oh yes, and I need some cash. So yes. And
yeah.
I think
we all end up kind of getting roped into it at some point, even if it's not the planned career path, for sure.
No, totally. And I think that's also, I really loved teaching, but at some point I looked at myself and thought, wait, this can't be my career. Like I didn't set out to be a ballet teacher. But, 30 years later, I'm like, wow, I really liked it then, and I really like it now. And it's a great career. It's, but yeah, I did teach all along. The only time I didn't teach is when I was in Indianapolis. I was, able to just dance all the time, but yeah.
Wow. And now you're teaching today.
And now I'm teaching, and I'm still teaching. And
Still teaching. So Michelle, when you were in New York City, how did you get involved with Ballet Hispanico? Can you talk a little bit about your experience, both as a teacher and as an administrator of Ballet Hispanico School of Dance?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I had probably come back from Indianapolis, and, I decided I wanted to make it work in New York, friends here, personal life here. I wanted to be here. And again, it was just connections. Like one of my teachers, my favorite teachers, the teacher I was training with on a regular basis, said, had worked there as well. And she said, I think they need somebody, it was like middle of the year, somebody had left. And so went over there, and it was a great fit, and kind of, another woman that we just lost. So Tina Ramirez had founded the company, and she just passed away, I think a few weeks ago too, but another very strong woman who was an honor to work for her. And I think for me as a teacher at that time, trying to figure out how am I going to use what I know, how, my approach to teaching, which is very clean, sort of placement based, musical way of teaching, that will work with the style of the company that I'm being asked to teach for, so that was it was a good learning experience. It was like, my teaching style can help dancers regardless of where they're working, or what cultural style they're doing. And it was great. And then for various reasons, the administrative director had left. She had been there a long time, and I was able to step into that role as well, which was great, because it let me see what it was like to work inside a nonprofit company like that, one that had a good history, and a strong staff, and a supportive board of directors. And the really nice thing at that time was the artistic director of the school, Zalma Bustillo, had a whole different set of skills. So we really complemented each other. She had danced at Joffrey, and she had run a school in Spain. So I think with her experience and history, I was relatively young, but I could write the emails, I could work the computer, I could do the numbers, and it was a good fit. It was really fun.
I love to hear that. That's awesome. And kind of skipping forward to my next couple of questions, is this one of the reasons why you developed your nonprofit organization, Ballet and Beyond New York City, because you had a sense of the administrative side to dance as well? Like, did it spark kind of a love for that?
100%. It was like, it's probably 20 years, 15, 20 years. But I'd been thinking about it all along, but I loved being at Ballet Hispanico. I loved the community that was there. I loved what Tina had created. You could see that money was not an issue. If students loved to dance, she was going to find a way that they were going to dance. Parents were there sewing costumes. There was really just this great community feeling, and the classes were always full. And so I left there to go get my MBA. So that kind of bookended that. Once I had that experience, I was like, I'd like to do this and have the skills, the real skills behind me. So why don't I go get an MBA and learn some more accounting and all this kind of stuff, strategy and marketing and all the things that, you could use to help further the business of dance. It was important to me that somehow I can help dance be more successful. Successful is the wrong word, but because I think dance is very successful, maybe more appreciated, more supported, right? Maybe more, more financially supported. So yeah, it was that experience there led me to want to create more opportunities for more students to be able to train, because I went on to teach in other places, and it just kind of struck me that there's a lot of capacity. There are a lot of people who want to teach and reach children, but the cost of it is prohibitive for many, many students, or knowing how to access the classes. Even if scholarships are available, how do you find out about them? How do students know that they're interested in ballet if they don't have the opportunity to try it and not just watch it, but actually try it day after day after day for a while to see like, oh, great, this feels good in my body. I see progress. I like this. So.
Yeah, accessibility is a huge thing that definitely needs improvement. And like you said, just even awareness about, like, sometimes accessibility exists, but it's at the same time just not like broadcasted enough for people to.
Yeah, I think one thing that I noted, the reason that I started the nonprofit the way that I did is I know there's so many amazing, ballet companies and organizations in the city. I can name so many of them who expose a lot of children to dance and create opportunities for children to try dance in their schools. And, but then I asked, well, what if you really liked it? What happens then? Like after the 6 weeks or the 8 weeks or the 12 weeks that you've been exposed, where do you go to train? I thought that there was a big gap, and I still think there is, because, to really understand and like ballet, you have to do it day after day for a while. And so I wanted to try to figure out a way to create that opportunity. We still don't reach enough students. We still don't, we still could have more locations. We could, but it was that sort of that gap that I saw. If you liked it, you were exposed to it, but you didn't get a scholarship to go study it at one of the schools, where do you go? How does that work for you? I'm still trying to answer those questions and help bridge that gap a little bit.
And now with your program, how do your classes run? How can students get involved? What's that kind of all like?
Yeah, so this is our 7th year kind of, and, we didn't stop during the pandemic, but of course we had to move to Zoom during the pandemic, as so many of us did. But the model is to work with community centers so that we go to places where students already are after school or in the neighborhood, and we set up our classes there. At the moment, our biggest partner happens to be the Goddard Riverside Community Center, and they have locations throughout mostly Manhattan. But yeah, we use their space, and the organization invests in bringing in a floor or doing what we can to make it a suitable space in which we train. So how can you find out? You can definitely go to the website and contact me, and you don't have to be a member of the community organization or anything in order to take the classes, but that's how the access works.
Well, I hope this does reach out to someone and they learn about and can then get to benefit your program. That
would be great. What we're doing now, we are, partnering with more and more organizations. We've been in a few different locations over our history, Flatbush, Brooklyn, up in the Wakefield section of the Bronx, at the moment we're kind of concentrating with Goddard Riverside, and they have various locations. So that's where we are, but yeah.
Yeah, it's so inspirational, Michelle. And it's wild to me that I didn't know about this like other side to you, because I was just so used to seeing you at Steps and you have taught this amazing ballet class, but then there's this other amazing thing that you're doing, and I'm just so happy that I have been learning about it, and it's just so interesting. And I hope that people will, as Kristen said, listen to this podcast and look up what you're doing, because it's absolutely fantastic and inspirational. And yeah, as I said, I want to be involved in some way. So I'd
love to have you. Thank you for that. I really think, the mission or the inspiration. I mean, the mission is to make ballet available. If you have a passion to dance, we want to make it available to you so that you can train. But, for me, it was like, I love teaching. Why can't I teach more students? That's kind of it sounds very simple, but that's pretty much it. Because somebody's got to pay for it. That's why. So I have to fundraise.
And that's what's so challenging about it. Yeah.
So is that kind of sorry, Hannah.
No, I was just saying it's good that she's bridging that gap. It's so important, because there's so many people that want to dance but just can't, because they don't have the financial standing to do so. And this provides another opportunity for them to get involved without that financial burden. So.
Now, Michelle, do you find, it sounds like this to kind of be the most rewarding aspect of your program, is just kind of reaching out to more and more students and building that accessibility?
I think, ironically, or maybe it's not ironic, but the most rewarding is seeing the growth with the same students. So it's really going deep. We have a number of students. So we just finished our 7th summer intensive program. We do throughout the year, we teach on a regular basis. And in the summer, we do this really intensive 7-week program. And we've had so many students return, and now they're working as counselors, or they're, coming back as counselors in training. And it's seeing that and kind of really understanding from the families and the students how important those connections are for them. That, as teachers, we see people come and go, and it's hard to know the difference that we're making, because you just see so many people, and, you can't get inside their heads and hearts and find out exactly what's going on. But when I get to know the families and the students return, and then they reach out when they're 16 or 17 and say, I want to work this summer with you, that's the most rewarding part.
Yeah. Aw. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And kind of to start wrapping things up a little bit more, just about your program, can you just speak on the performances that the students get to participate in?
Oh, right. Yeah. Really the most public performance we do is at the end of our summer program. They create the story around what is essentially a musical, because we also, in the summer, we combine ballet. I handle the dancing, but the dance training, but I work with Carlton Terrence Taylor, who's an incredible musical theater director, performer. So we make kind of a musical theater performance, not kind of, it is a musical theater performance. So the students create the story, we bring in musical theater numbers and, dance and song. This past summer, we were at Riverside Church Theater. We're usually in a situation like that. During the year, it's a little bit more intimate. We perform locally for the communities in which we're working. So, yeah.
Great.
Amazing. And Michelle, kind of skipping ahead, if you could pick one thing, and I know it's really hard, but what is your favorite part about being a ballet instructor? Do you have any moments when you say to yourself, this is why I teach?
Yeah, I guess it's going to sound similar, but it seems so simple, but it is the aha moment when I see something and I give a correction or a suggestion, and then the student does it and they realize that for them, it seems so simple, but that's what teaching is for me. It's giving you the opportunity or the ability to realize something new in yourself. So if something that I tell you or suggest to you opens up something, a new way of doing something, or a confidence that you didn't have, or another level of understanding, that's really all it is.
Yeah, and I can speak on that firsthand. There are so many things in class that I'll do, and then you'll give me the correction, and then once I do it, you're like, yes, you did it. That's right. And I feel so much better once I hear that support from you. And I think a lot of students who work with you probably feel the same exact way as I do. And I can just tell how passionate you are about, seeing people improve and become the best dancers that they can be.
It's my hope that you feel it internally, that it's not just me saying, okay, good. That you feel like, yes, I've got this now. I've got this. I would be remiss if I didn't, before we leave tonight, just say that, with all the different influences that I've had, because I'm American and we get training from everybody, it was really working with Maggie Black that brought me to New York City. And it was understanding her approach to technique and her musicality, and then working with the teachers that had trained with her as well. And watching those teachers work with all the different kinds of dancers in New York City and making a difference, whether they were ABT or City Ballet or Ailey or, just, it didn't matter, or a lot of modern dancers as well. It didn't really matter the style of dance that you were doing. This type of training could see and help you to be more confident in your own fundamental technique, and just would give you the confidence and the training that you could express your own artistic message. You could express your artistry. And I mean, I finally found that and felt that in my 20s. I was so grateful when I found that. Like, you know, I really felt like I could say whatever I wanted with my dancing at that point. So I'm hoping that the people that I work with find that as well.
I would say so, being someone that you work with. Well, anyway, thank you so much, Michelle, for taking the time to do this with us. Are there any last words that you want to leave our audience with? I know you said the Maggie Black part was important, but is there anything else?
I'm just so grateful to be able to talk about ballet. I love ballet, and I'm so glad that we're moving to a place in the world where we can let go of some of the baggage that had come with ballet, whatever that was for you, whether that was, you know, body image, other things that were maybe negative associations. And I just want my work to help to take ballet in a positive direction. And hope that the people that I work with feel good in their bodies and feel good with the ballet technique.
Yes. So anyone in the New York City area, please go take Michelle at Steps on Broadway in New York City, and look up her website for her nonprofit organization. I'm just so glad I met you. You have definitely made a lasting impression on me, and I am fortunate to continue our relationship moving forward. So again, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. It's been a pleasure to meet you and hear about your career and experiences.
Thank you for having me. You guys have a great podcast. Keep it going.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning into Abundance. We appreciate your support. We hope to have PK'd your interest. Feel free to contact us at abundancepodcast5678@gmail.com and give us feedback on what you'd like to hear. That is abundance without parentheses. Go dance yourself silly. Bye for now.
A special thank you to Richard DiFiore for our lovely podcast tune and Matt Mellish for our cover art.